Fast and Furious needs to stop. It needs to pull the emergency brake so that I can sleep better at night.
Is the mic on?
At this point, the series is a corpse being dragged around by two Dodge Challengers into a theater near you. There's many places to say where this series should have ended. The best one was probably Fast 5. Everyone becomes rich, Dom has moved on, and he and O'Connor have one last race. It's a beautiful ending, with no loose ends. I mean, besides the whole thing with Han dying, but they changed things up in Fast 9. My head hurts from thinking about the entire franchise. And they also could have ended with Furious 7 when they said goodbye to Paul Walker. A beautiful send-off that hits me every time I see it. It's insane to think that that ending came from a Fast and Furious movie. It was another perfect place to stop, but the wheels just kept spinning, and not even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had any more interest in this series whatsoever. Well, until Black Adam failed, so I guess he's coming back.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. Things will never be the same, because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Okay.
This series became crowded with bodybuilders and shitty dialogue. At one point, the whole family aspect made sense, but now they've added so many people to it that it's become a fucking Olive Garden. The whole Fast and Furious formula worked for a while, but at some point you have to say goodbye, because these types of movies can only last for so long. A lot of people have said that 9 was the nail in the coffin, so to speak, but for me it was Fate of the Furious, or F8 of the Furious. I don't know, the title of that one bothers me. I think this was the movie where they really dropped the ball. Now, these movies were never realistic to begin with, but this one was just insulting if you ask me. I don't know if it was the fact that Dom won a race in reverse while his car was on fire within the first 10 minutes of the movie, or the fact that Dwayne Johnson coaches a girls' soccer game also near the beginning of the movie. Either way, the franchise was just cashing in at this point. I don't think quality really mattered anymore. I remember leaving the theater that day thinking I was done with Fast and Furious. Then Hobbs and Shaw came out, and I actually had a fun time. It was just as dumb in every regard, but it was enjoyable. Then F9 came out. The second Dom was saved by Cardi B and her stripper friends was the moment I lost all faith in cinema. The dialogue has gotten worse with each movie, and it hurts to see the golden egg that is Fast 5 get tarnished 5 movies later with Fast X. But like I said, this franchise ended the second Paul Walker left the picture, because the relationship between him and Vin Diesel was always such a pleasure to see on screen. Or even Paul Walker and Therese. I really think Brian O'Connor was the heart of the franchise. He essentially was the main character that we followed from the very beginning. And now we have this talking thumb and a Dodge Challenger. Now, I love Vin Diesel as much as the next person does, but I think I can't really take him seriously anymore. But with great amounts of box office cash come some really mediocre movies. Universal even managed to make their Fast and Furious ride just as disappointing as the past 3 movies. If you ever go to Universal, ride that once just to know how mediocre that ride is. By the 7th movie, there was a drop in quality if we're talking about dialogue and story. But even if Paul Walker were still here, I'm willing to bet that these movies would have been slightly better than they are now. This constant need to include boring, quippy characters that become part of an unstoppable, ever-growing family is part of the reason this franchise has dried out. The word family was actually taken seriously at one point, but that went down the drain real quick once they started adding more and more characters. I mean, they've added every single bodybuilder you can think of in the Hollywood industry. As soon as Dwayne Johnson left, they really doubled down on that. If you still like this franchise and the most recent Fast and Furious movies, I respect your opinion, but for me personally, I can't take any more of it, and Fast X was the last straw for me. They had their chance, and they blew it. They popped the tire. Oh, I love all these car metaphors. This series needs to end so I can get some rest.
And after the studio saw this part one, they said, could you make Fast X, the finale, a trilogy? So,
Shit.